This is the Average to Savage podcast with Paul Guarino. Everyone and anyone, athletes, celebs, and much more.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Average Savage podcast. Our special guest today is Shontelle. Shontelle, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm in Barbados. I can't complain.
Yeah, like I'd rather be there because I'm in Connecticut and it's getting cold out here now, so
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it.
It's getting cold for you, but for us, we're getting like the hurricanes and it's that kind of
Oh,
time.
why you got hit by that?
Like we didn't get hit by Ian, even though it's like totally destroyed Florida, but yesterday we had a really heavy rains and there was a lot of flooding. Not nearly how as bad as what Florida's getting, but yeah, it's getting there for us. So we just got to see how the rest of the season plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you got into music.
Oh man, I guess you could say I was born into it. Because a lot of people in my family are musical. Like my mom was in the church choir in a big way, and then I have an aunt who was like pretty famous in Barbados as a singer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born and raised in Barbados, like I said. So I just grew up around the scene, like around her and her band, and so I guess you could say it's like in my blood. And I just was that kid that was always like skipping class and hanging out in the music room instead with my friends. Yeah, and then I started to gain like a reputation as a songwriter in Barbados. I started writing for like basically the biggest artists out here, and it caught the attention of these guys that were the production company that originally discovered Rihanna, and they were actually looking for someone who could write for her, and so they found me, and that's how I ended up going to New York. But then when I got there, they were like, "Holy shit."
Mm-hmm.
These demos, is it you singing? And I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, wow, we got another one. Do you want to be an artist? I'm like, duh. So, they kind of just put me through the same ropes and we recorded a bunch of demos, shopped it around to all the different labels. And Universal was the first label that was, like, we're ready. Like, let's do this. So, yeah, that was kind of in a nutshell how it all happened.
That's dope. Wait, so
Yeah.
to tell me how did you get like how did you end up in New York? Just because those people
Um,
discovered it?
so, so if anyone is from like Caribbean culture, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But there's an artist, her name is Allison Hines, and she's basically like the Caribbean's Beyonce, like for soca music, our style of music in the islands. And so I got this opportunity to write a huge song for her. I didn't know it was gonna be huge, but it ended up being going global. And there's a song called Roll It Gal, and this song blew up. So while these guys were working with Rihanna, this is like when they were making Music of the Sun. So if you listen to that, the style of music on that album is still very like islandy and Caribbean and has like a lot of like reggae and type elements. So I guess the song was probably like one of the top performing songs out of the Caribbean at the time. So they were just looking for the people behind like the top island songs. Um, so they happened to be in Barbados and they saw me on the cover of a magazine, and I guess like the title said something about this like me and my songwriting or whatever. So they were like, oh my gosh, this is the girl that wrote the song that we like find her. And it was weird because when they called me, I just happened to be in New York at the time because
Mhm.
it was like around Labor Day, and everyone knows that's when all the Caribbean people are in New York and doing all the carnival stuff. So I happened to be out there, and when they called me, they were like asking me, "So when are you going to be in New York next?" And I'm like, serendipity, I'm here right now.
Mhm.
So I literally went to their studio the same day that they called and met with them, and that's when everything happened. They actually put me on the spot, brought out a guitar. They're like, these recordings are cool, but let's see if you can really sing like for real. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, I came here to talk about writing, and next thing you know, I'm like auditioning
Yeah.
key. But yeah, so they really liked what they heard and decided, let like if you want to, we'll take the same shot with you. And yeah, it was just kind of all of a dream. Sometimes I still pinch myself how it all happened, because I don't feel like it was something I was chasing. I feel like it was something that just came to me, like
Hmm.
it was, I don't know, written or something. I don't know if you
Yeah.
believe in that kind of stuff. But yeah, so yeah, I recorded a bunch of demos with them, and yeah, we shopped around. I went to everyone. Went to they like. I remember Jimmy Iovine flying me out to LA because he wanted to sign me to Interscope, and it was dope. Like I met Snoop Dogg. I went to like Snoop Dogg's listening party the first day I got there. I was like, "What is happening? This is
And
crazy."
what year was this?
I think this was about 2000. It's probably like 2008, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, or 2007, because I think my first album came out in 2008. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the
Mhm.
timeline. So then from there, is that like how did you write T-shirt?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it was so weird. Um, so yeah. So fast forward, I get signed. I'm signed to like Steve Rifkin's label, under Motown, which was called Street Records, SRC at the time. And so for those of you who know like of Steve Rifkin and that whole label, it used to be called Loud Records, and they were like legendary in hip hop because this is the label that brought like Wu Tang and 3 6 Mafia and like all these legendary acts, and then later, of course, like Akon. And then I get signed to this label. I'm like, what is going on? Walking through Universal, I'm like seeing Stevie Wonder on the walls and the Jackson 5, and I'm like, dude, I'm signed to Motown. Like, what is going on? So yeah, I just my whole life changed like very very quickly because it went from getting signed within like I would say less than a year. The album was done and ready, and T-shirt was actually not on the album at first. Like we had a whole different plan, like which single to go with first. And I remember like we were in the meeting, like there's usually like a meeting where like the whole label's at, in the conference room, and we're going through finalizing the album details, the track listing, the cover art, all this stuff. And we're like, yeah, boom, the meeting's over, like album's ready to go. And then I remember, I'm trying to remember who it was that walked in, but some other label executive walked in, and he's like, we're not done. This album's not going out yet. And I'm just like, oh no, this is like the nightmare you hear about every artist. They get you
Yeah.
all hyped, and then your album gets shelved and it never comes out. And oh yeah, it was Doug Morris. Doug Morris is the guy. He walks in. He's like the head of the label at the time. He walks in. He's like, "It's not done. We just got like a new track, um, and she's gonna need to like work on this song before this album comes out." Of course, I go through like I really thought that this was, this is what was happening for me, but then, yeah. So we go back to the drawing board, go back to the studio. I'm like, okay, the only reason why I wasn't all the way depressed about working on it because it was like I like with T-shirt I was working with really big writers and producers. So the producer, his name is Wayne Wilkins, and he's like done huge records for Beyonce, and the writer, his name is Savan Koteka. So he's done a lot of big songs for like people like Britney Spears. So I was like, you know what? At least I get to work with these people. We'll see what happens. Like this is a dream. I'm getting to work with people that this most people will never be able to work with. So let's just do it. Yeah, and then we came up with T-shirt, and I was like really nervous too. I was like, this is so bubblegum. Like, I'm like, what am I doing? Like, this is way too bubblegum. But they were like, just trust us. This is amazing. It's gonna work. And then yeah, it ended up being the first single, and here we are. It was the single that set the tone, I guess you could say. And I got really lucky. It was very successful.
Yeah, for sure. Like even obviously I met you through NFTs and stuff, but I didn't know no offense, but I didn't know what songs you sang, and then I looked it up, and I was like, oh shit, like she sang this song, and it instantly like, clicked in my head that like I knew that song, and I knew like Impossible and stuff. So that
Yeah.
was cool. That's why I was even more
World's most I don't know, like invisible artist, I feel.
the word. Well, going on
Yeah.
this
I'm
podcast.
the artist that everyone knows the songs.
Yeah,
They don't know who the artist is, and they also don't know that the same artist sings all of these songs. They're
yeah,
like, wait, what?
yeah,
It's
for sure.
actually, some people meet me and they're like, wait, you're black. And I'm like, oh my God. What the hell? And they're like, I thought you were a white girl. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, those two songs are definitely totally different. Like,
Yeah, they're
sound,
so
like,
fucking.
yeah, for sure. No, but I mean, well, me as a listener of music, like, I don't like half the time I don't know the artist anyways. Like, I
Yeah.
just listen to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then yeah, like, what happened after that? Like, you blew up. It was on the top charts, all that stuff.
Yeah. I think, I mean, T-shirt was really successful. I think it was, yeah, I mean, it went gold, I believe. It was like my
Hmm.
first single, and it, you know, it like did really well on the charts, but I think it maybe was like top 20 or something like that on
Hmm.
Billboard. I was just really excited to actually be in top 40. I was like, I can't, like, I'm on Billboard. I can't believe this. But then Impossible came out a little bit after that, and Impossible was the one that crushed it. Like that took me, I'm pretty sure, like in the US all the way to like number 3 or 4 or something like that in the top 10, and number one like all over the world.
Hmm.
Um, but that's two completely different albums. So the T-shirt album came out, and that allowed me. That was kind of like what propelled everything. Like for most artists, that was what sort of put me on the road. I was able to like open for Rihanna a few times, at some of her shows, and then right after that album came out and the success of T-shirt, then I went to tour with Beyonce on the I Am tour, and that was another kind of like pinch yourself moment. Like, what is going on? Like, I am
Hmm.
touring with Beyonce. Like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Impossible wasn't that like it was featured on a lot of sports stuff too, right?
Yeah, it's so weird because a lot of my music ended up on like the gym playlists, like the official gym playlist, like what
Yeah.
they're playing. It's like, and it was playing a lot in the if you liked going if you were in the shopping malls, if you go to H&M,
Mhm.
they like just have the music playing. It was like on a lot of those playlists, both songs. And those are the type of things that really lead to the success of a song, like not just the people playing it on streaming platforms, but like our institutions, like are they having it on rotation in their stores and their restaurants. All that is
Mhm.
driving your numbers up. So I was grateful. I got added to like a whole ton of shit, and I was just like, guys like this music, and there's so many guys messaging me like, dude, you don't understand, like pumping. I'm pumping, and Impossible is just like, yeah, that's my gym. This is my workout song. I'm like, how is this? This is impossible. They
Yeah.
literally like, they're like, I don't know. It does something to me, man. It pumps me up. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever works.
Yeah. No, yeah, because I'm a sports guy, so I feel like it was like on ESPN. Or like, was it on ESPN?
Yeah.
So you got to deal with them?
Well, it wouldn't be me that had the deal, but what
Yeah.
it is, like the publishing companies,
Yeah.
they're the ones who do, yeah, all these deals with you know, the movie
Hmm.
studios, or, different brands, different networks and things like that. Yeah, it's usually the publishers. So my publishing is also with Universal, so they would be the ones who are making all those deals. But of course, the artist still low key gets the benefit, especially if your business has been handled, then you still retain a good amount of your publishing, or
Yeah.
no, but what the part I don't like is that most in these deals, the artist doesn't have we don't have we don't own the master rights.
Hmm.
So we'll pick up like some residuals in publishing, every time our music gets used, or definitely if the master version with your voice is being used. Um, but let's say the label decides to use the song for something, and they use a cover instead, or someone else's version, if you don't own any publishing on the song and you have no master rights, you're literally going to make $0
Yeah.
off of the song that's yours. But yeah, because it's not you singing it, it's not your performance, then yeah, you'll make zero, and the label will make like thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
That's crazy. So yeah, so like on the business side of things, like what is that? Are you signed right now?
No, I
So
think
yeah, like so how does that work? Do you still get it from that?
yeah.
Oh,
So I'm no longer signed as a recording artist,
okay.
but I still do have my pub deal with UMPG, which is Universal Music Publishing Group. And the reason I didn't get out of my publishing deal is just because I still retained the majority of my publishing with this deal. But what it does is Universal has the power to place my music in places that I don't.
Hmm.
So there's no point. I mean, a percentage of zero is still zero.
Yeah.
If it's just up to me, like I may not know how to. I mean, now I'm in a different place. I know a lot more people now, and I can sort of make plays much more independently now. But like, let's say in the beginning, there's no way like I could get my music in a commercial
Yeah.
or a movie or soundtrack or something like that. And those are the things that make your music that extra money on top of just playing on radio and people streaming it. Um, so yeah, if you're not owning anything, then you make nothing. But if you own the majority, or even if you own only a little bit, if you allow a publishing company to take your music and actually get it placed, then you'll start generating a lot more in pub. But it's kind of a tricky thing because even with publishers, even though it's in their best interest to push the music that you create, sometimes it's difficult to get their attention because there's like hundreds of thousands of other artists and writers.
Yeah.
And so you have to really know how to play the game or know the right people so that you're on people's radar, so that you're the one that the building is like revolving around.
Hmm.
And that in itself is a major challenge and something that most people don't aren't able to manage really well. So I just was like, you know what, I think I've been able to get my sort of nurture enough relationships within the industry on the inside that I can feel safe keeping my pub deal because I know like they're actually bringing something to the table. But I did go through a point where I had to like really get in there and like bang on tables and nudge them and
Yeah.
you know like make some moves. Otherwise, this deal makes no sense for me and I'll leave.
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, it's been pretty good. Like it's pretty cool seeing um, T-shirt being like a bunch of like um, Netflix shows and seeing other songs that I wrote, even songs I wrote from that were recorded by other artists, ended up in like Grey's Anatomy and all these like really major network productions. So yeah, for me, it makes more sense to at least maintain my publishing deal
Hmm.
because yeah, that definitely brings a lot more to the table than I could on my own. But as far as like my recording deal, that one, the math was not mathing at all.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
so how much have things like changed since you like began in the industry and now like even with like even what you were just saying like now like TikTok is like blowing up like that's how people's songs blow up and and things like that and even I know we'll touch base after about NFTs but yeah.
Yeah, all the artists, people who just want to be famous aren't bothered by TikTok. And a lot of them are young and they grew up in this anyway, and it's just what they know. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like normal and fun for them. That's kind of like how they have fun with their friends. But for artists that really care about being artists and maybe the fame is secondary, we're just artists because we can't help it.
Hmm.
Like there's something in us that drives us to create that makes us want to touch people's hearts and impact people in a positive way. And when that's what you're driven by, these types of things feel really almost like self-deprecating. They feel like really gimmicky.
Hmm.
It makes you feel like you're putting a lot more energy into doing something that isn't what you're here to do because you're here to create your music and sing for people and that's what you want to do. You don't want to like have to freaking make up a dance or structure your music around what you think is going to be trendy. It's like that's a very different way to approach creativity, but at the same time you can't say it's not creative. I
Hmm.
I like think that these kids are like geniuses how they come up with this stuff that just goes viral and whatnot. But for me as a creator, it's really that's so far outside of my process and it's
Hmm.
not normal for me. So when I have to go into that realm, I really do feel like a fish out of water, but I do understand the genius behind it and like I understand how it works and is quite smart, but it is kind of scary for us creators because we feel like so now this means we can't really create from the heart. Now we have to
Hmm.
consider an algorithm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to create, and that feels like weird. It feels like that isn't typically how creativity works, and so it's like yeah, you have to adjust. It's not been fun or easy for me, like
Hmm.
just keeping it real, but yeah, it's a thing now. So we have to learn to adapt and the same way that eventually everyone's going to have to start learning to adapt to Web3, or the same way we had to start learning to adapt to the internet. And we were like, wait, you don't write letters anymore? What's this email thing? Like, you just hit a button and what? You
Yeah.
know, we adapt. And so maybe hopefully sooner than later I'll get there with TikTok and all that stuff. But for me, man, it's like, oh, I hate it.
Maybe just you just got to go in the booth and just record like 15-second songs and just throw them on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe for me, the content that would work more for me instead of the gimmicky stuff, because people also enjoy the kind of like BTS, like behind the scenes content too. Like you
Yeah.
kind of tease like you're creating a song and
Yeah.
but yeah, for me, I would probably more so just I would probably have to be like Jacob Lee. I would need like a small team around me who follows me around, document stuff, and then creates that cool content
Yeah.
for me that then I could just kind of like chop it up and spread it out over time. But yeah, I suck at stuff like that. I would be one of those artists. I would just have to like have a budget to be paying. Like this is what a lot of people do. They just be paying the dancers. They just like
Yeah.
hit them up and be like, "What's your rate? Like, do a dance to my song. Could you make up a challenge?"
Yeah.
You know, and yeah. So you have to decide how you're gonna navigate it. You're either going to put in that work and time and energy into figuring out how to create really like attractive content on your own
Hmm.
or yeah you gotta have a budget where you can just pay for it, pay people to do it and pay people that are already really popular or have a huge following to sort of put you on their people's radar. So yeah, there's ways around it. You just gotta
Yeah.
decide how you want to play the game.
For sure. And going back to like the masters thing, like so a lot I'm sure you've seen it like a lot of people either are like buying their masters back like Snoop Dogg or like a lot of like older artists I'd say are like selling their masters.
Yeah,
What is your thoughts on that stuff?
so that tells me a lot, and that tells me when I see certain types of people making certain moves or investing in a certain space, it tells me it usually is an indicator that they know something that we don't know. And what I think is happening is that they are fully aware that the world of art is moving into a space where ownership means more than it ever did before.
Yeah.
Um, and I think they are recognizing that we are kind of moving towards either the concepts of fractional ownership or even decentralization. And they're recognizing, wait a minute, there's so much value in a song. Like they are probably in their 40s and 50s realizing that music that came out when their parents were little is still popular right now and still making money and being, and the beauty of art is that it can derivatives, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, for example, a song can come out in 1935 and then another artist will do a different version of that song in 1945, and then it'll someone will sample it in 1965, and then in 2000 Beyonce's got it sampled in her, and they're like, whoa, this is like money that never dies. It just keeps rolling over and rolling over. um and so they realize like this is very valuable, and very valuable in the long term, like being able to own a very successful artist catalogs. And a lot of artists, unfortunately, the business isn't nice to creatives, and so many artists spend their entire career being extremely popular, um, touring all over the world, living their best life. And then one day they wake up and realize it's all over and they have nothing really, or they didn't really make much. Um, and maybe it felt like they were making a lot, because when you are really famous,
Hmm.
you don't have to spend money really, because
Yeah.
people just give you everything for free.
Yeah.
So you might have felt like, wow, like I'm staying in the nicest hotels. I didn't pay for this first class flight.
Right.
I didn't pay for this private jet. I didn't pay for this Dom Perignon. Like
Yeah.
I didn't pay for any of this stuff. And you feel like you're making money, and the designers are giving you like free swag, and you're like dripping, and you're good. But then all of it slows down, and then you're like looking at the bank, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I had a lot more money, bro. Like my
Yeah.
life felt a lot. And then they realize like, holy shit, like how do I keep up this lifestyle now? Like, I can't even get into certain rooms unless I look a certain way, even though I'm this guy. I'm not the guy right now anymore. And
Hmm.
so they feel like they have to keep it up. And then maybe they've had families now they have kids, and then they're like, well, the band doesn't even exist anymore, like we're not even touring. How am I, and the label owns all my publishing, so I'm not even getting royalties. Like, how do I make money? And so they wake up and realize like, I think I'm gonna have to sell my catalog.
Hmm.
That way I get and a lot of them kind of have a strategy about it, like they'll sell it with the intention or belief that later they'll buy it back. So
Yeah.
what they want, instead of instead of going to a bank and getting a loan that they have to pay back, they'll just sell their catalog, get like millions of dollars, and then they'll start taking that money and trying to figure it out, like how can I invest
Yeah.
this? And if they're successful with their investments, they'll make that money back really quickly, and then they'll just try to buy it back.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not that simple to get it back, because the people, or the person who has it now, they're like, we're not letting this go, like we're
Yeah.
making so much money in our sleep holding on to this, like you'll never get this back. And so you would have to be coming with like the extra bag to even convince them.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is why you see that happening. And yeah, so the people investing in publishing understand how publishing works. They understand that it's passive income, and they understand that the more catalogs they collect, it's very valuable. And if they own the masters, it means that they can determine whatever happens to the music as well. Like, so they now have the power to try to make the music make even more money by like somehow reviving it, or putting it in a movie, or doing something with it that's going to generate more royalties. So yeah, they know a lot that the average person doesn't know, and they really understand the value of intellectual property.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so a lot of really rich people will get to a point where they maybe done the real estate, they've done the startups, they've done the VC thing, they've done the tech, and now they're like, okay, what's fun? What's gonna give me access to like freaking, like Hollywood and the music industry and the stars?
Hmm.
Like, yeah, if I'm the guy that's owning their music, then all these people got to deal with me. I get to meet everybody.
Yeah.
I get to invite them to the party. I get to hang out with like Snoop Dogg. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, so yeah, those are some of the reasons why people do that. Like, intellectual property is very valuable, and so now this is why you have this era where creatives finally. It took us a long ass time, but we finally figured it out. Like, this is what we need to not let go of, because look at these guys,
Hmm.
they're investing in this, it must be valuable, and we're just letting it go. What are we doing?
Yeah.
you know
Yeah, I don't know if you saw like James Earl Jones just sold his voice like to AI or something. Like some
Yeah.
so that's crazy. Like stuff like that's crazy. And then I think there was an actor that just did it too. I forgot who it was. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's like that's just wild. And I know like
Yeah.
Shaq is invested in this company that owns like Elvis Presley's IP.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
crazy
So.
things like that.
So now it doesn't just look like, oh, like one guy, owns a catalog. Like I said, like
Yeah.
a group of people will come together, start a freaking company, and say, this is what this company does. We buy catalogs, and we
Yeah.
all, we all own them, like collectively. Like we all have fractional ownership of these catalogs, and that's how we make money over time. So yeah, it's very it's lucrative business, man.
Yeah. All right. So tell me how you got into NFTs.
Yeah, so how I got into NFTs was Jack, no more treats.
Yeah, Jack, we're doing
You an
something here.
NFT. But yeah, I got into NFTs was right before, this is literally right before the pandemic started. Um, I was already at this place in my career where I was recognizing, I already like understood the value of IP, and I was recognizing, like, especially as a female, like I'm getting older. They like to like discard us really quickly, unless we do all the things and keep up with the sexy and
Mm-hmm.
kind of like low key sell our souls a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, I don't know if I'm trying to do that. I make real good money writing songs on top of like what I make as an artist. And so then I was just like, maybe I should start like accepting the fact that there's a really high possibility that my artist career could be over like sooner than I would like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just wanted I'm like a super realist. And so instead of being like a pessimist or like overly optimistic, I like to stay in the middle. I'm a realist. So I looked at my life, I looked at the trajectory, and I was like, okay, you've done all this. This is awesome. But you have to be real. There's a really high probability that this is the way it's going to go. So you're going to really need to get serious about the rest of your life. You're going to really need to get serious about how you're going to make money moving forward. So I started realizing, I'm not like a big spender, which is why I still have a lot of money, but I'm not securing my future. Like, I was like, I don't have any investments really, you know? And I'm looking around at some of my friends. I like totally missed the boat. Like, a bunch of my friends got lucky, and they were like, it's, some of those like first checks with like Uber,
Mm-hmm.
Canva, like Zoom, all these like major, like when the tech boom was happening. And I like totally missed the boat, and I was like, damn,
I'm mad at you.
could it be getting some Facebook money? Like, and so I decided like to start paying more attention, and so I had a bunch of my friends, like forex trading was becoming really popular. I started like digging into it. I was like, yeah, I need to diversify my portfolio. Maybe I'll get into trading. I'll throw some money over here, but I couldn't take it, dude. Like it was like so stressful for me, and I was just like, this is gonna kill me early. So maybe trading is not for me. Like this forex thing was cute, but I don't like it, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to take the time to understand like the bots and all that. So through the forex community, I met a bunch of crypto guys, and they were like, "Dude, fiat's dead. Trust me." And I'm like, "What do you mean fiat's dead?" And they're like, "Just trust me. Like, get in early now. You keep complaining how you missed the boat with the tech. Well, here's your second chance. Don't mess it up." And so I'm like, okay. And I start going down the crypto rabbit hole, and I start loving it. I'm just like, I am loving the whole ethos of this thing. Why did everyone think it was the devil? This is amazing. Like, I need to really start investing. Um, and then through the crypto community, um, they started telling me, like, dude, you're an artist, you're in crypto, like, you gotta start looking at NFTs. So I'm like, NFTs, what the hell? So I had to go through, go through a whole another learning curve. went down the rabbit hole. I was like on YouTube like hours every day. And then I just started sitting in Twitter spaces because like everyone in the community started telling me, you can't be for real in Web3 if you're not on Twitter.
Yeah.
Just say. And I was just like, dude, I haven't tweeted in like 5 years. Like, what do you mean? So I had to come back to Twitter. Um, and then, yeah, I really started exploring the world of Web3. And I recognized that, yeah, this could be something that could make a lot of sense for creatives. So I kind of like really geeked out. And um, then the pandemic hit. And so it was kind of like I actually really had a lot of time to
Mhm.
spend researching about it and learning because I had nothing to do. I wasn't told, I couldn't go anywhere, I couldn't do anything. Um, and so some friends of mine decided like this is perfect timing. I did my research to find out like is like I see the art, like the visual art coming through with the NFTs, but at the time I wasn't seeing any music. Like I wasn't seeing it in the on the music side of creativity. So I was like, how do you do this like with music? Is it possible? Like has this been done? Then all of a sudden I discovered like that Kings of Leon did an album as an NFT. So I was like, okay, so it's a thing. Someone's done it. Then I started hearing about Snoop Dogg doing all this stuff in Web3. And I was just like, okay, he's not like really releasing music. He's kind of like using his celebrity for like, PFP projects or like to get access to his world in a sandbox or whatever. So I'm like starting to see the different ways that people are using this tech. I'm just like, I'm gonna try it.
Yeah.
I try it because I gotta find a creative and new way to give my fans or supporters some type of experience while everyone's locked inside, you know? And
Mhm.
I'm like, this makes a lot of sense right now. Like everyone's forced to be virtual. All the experiences are virtual. Um, and so I think it makes sense for me to kind of like test this right now, like in a time where everyone has to experience everything virtually anyway. Yeah, so I spent a long time not only doing research, but then I recognized that for me to even get the support from my fans, I would have to teach them what this stuff is. Like what the hell is an NFT? And so I started creating a lot of content about NFTs and Web3 and blockchain and crypto. And I started a Telegram. And when I felt like I had enough people in that Telegram that were like on board and they understood it, I was just like, I think it's time. I kind of like tested them and or like surveyed them, you could say. And I'm like, what, if I was to, if I was to like launch an NFT project, would that mean something to you? And they were all like, yeah, like please do it. We want those Shontelle digital collectibles. And this was even before I knew about utility and all that stuff. I just packaged it in such a way that like I thought of myself as a fan, and I'm like a huge Beyonce fan. So I'm like, if Beyonce did a digital collectible, like what would make me want it other than the fact that it's Beyonce? And like if it were in limited supply, what would make me actually want to fight for it?
Mhm.
Um, so I was just like, it can't be just like music. It can't be just an album. That's not enough. It can't be just a video. And I'm like, what would I kill for if Beyonce put it out as an exclusive experience? And I was just like, maybe it could give people access to meet and greets, and maybe it can give them concert access, and maybe they get merch as well, and maybe they get a vinyl, and so
Yeah.
maybe they get custom artwork. Like each individual person that buys one, the artwork's completely different. Maybe we get an illustrator to illustrate them in the cover art with me. Like, so I came up with all these cool things that I thought would be unique and like really exclusive experiences, packaged it all. um, but I knew that doing a generative project wasn't gonna make sense at the time. And I really wanted to make it special for those fans who really genuinely wanted to collect Shontelle. So I went digging I had to dig really deep within Web3 because most of the people were collecting apes and punks and like fine art.
Mhm.
And So I had to find the music community within Web3, found it, felt like I like found my tribe. Then I had to find the collectors in the Web3 community, then filter that down to the collectors who are into collecting music NFTs or music digital collectibles. And then I had to go into that, like filter that down to be like, are there any Shontelle fans over here?
Yeah.
And they just happened to be a few of them. So brought them into the Telegram because this was before I even knew about Discord and all that.
Yeah.
Like this was like yeah. So I was just using Telegram. So yeah, I would just gradually like filtering people into my Telegram, and yeah, once I felt like I had enough people, I was like, I'm gonna. It was the 11th anniversary of Impossible, so I was like, I'm just gonna do 11 NFTs, one for each year the songs went out. Um, and yeah,
That's crazy because
yeah.
so when I launched mine, it was my 10-year anniversary, and I came out with 11 also because I created my brand in 2011.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so only 11 NFTs, and I said, I don't want to come off like real arrogant and crazy. Like I don't even know what to set this price at, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it up to the people. This is the ultimate test. This is the like I really can collect some serious data here. Like I can really find out what the people who value me the highest, like how high is that?
Yeah.
Like how much I want to know how much are you willing to pay for a piece of me, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so I said,
how much was it?
I'm like, I'm not setting a price. I'm gonna do it auction. I'm like
Okay.
auction all 11 pieces, bro. Like my life changed immediately. My life changed because I was just like, I don't understand. Wait, somebody's trying to get up here. Hey, Ernie. Yeah, I was just like, I don't understand. Like, how the hell I just made more money in 48 hours, leaving it up to people to decide what they want to pay, than I can make streaming across all platforms combined in like, it would take me like 3 years
Wow.
to generate what I made from those NFTs. So like, um, pretty sure the top bidder, I think he spent what at the time would have been about 17K in ETH
Hmm.
to get that. And so you know, and then each one below that was like it was like 17, then 15, 14, 13, 11K. Like it's just like small increments going down. I'm like these
Yeah.
people are paying a lot to have
No.
this. This is ridiculous. Like and I'm just like, you know, it really showed me like that was the true test. Like what is my worth? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know what? It taught me like I don't need the whole world. I'm like, dude, 11 people just like put in my pocket what the whole world would put in my pocket in 3 years,
Yeah.
in 2 days. So
Yeah.
I was just like, we need to start looking at things a whole lot different. Now, granted, I can accept the fact and that I I I probably had it very different than let's say like a totally new, unknown, not established, never signed artist that no one knows at all.
Yeah.
I was able to benefit from the fact that, you know, I had a successful Web2 career, and there were people out there who knew who I was already and knew my music. And so I think, you know, that sort of gave me a bit of a, like an edge, I guess you could say. Um, but it still showed me that if you're an artist and you're willing to create something really special and focus only on those who genuinely believe in you, you can probably establish a much more livable career. Like you can have a life where you do what you love for a living and you can live comfortably
Yeah.
because this very small group of people values you that high. And honestly, if you're able to do it like that, you'll be even more valuable later because you would have proven that you don't need the whole world to decide that you're worth $1 million. You really only need the right person with enough influence to decide this is what I'll outbid all of you. I'll pay the most money to have this one thing or this or be a part, have a part of this collection. That's how much it means to me. And if that one right person determines your value at that, now that's what your value is. And anyone else who wants to collect something from you is going to have to be willing to match or step above that. Um, and so that's kind of like how it works in fine art, right? Like a fine artist isn't making like 10 million pieces so like everyone in the world can have access and have one, have a Mona Lisa, like, you know what I mean? Like Picasso wasn't like, I'm gonna do like 10,000 piece collection, and like he's like, I'm doing one painting, dude. Like either you like it or you don't, and whoever likes it the most, they're gonna pay the most. And once you sell that first painting, everyone's like, dude, so when's the guy gonna do another one? I'm gonna try to get the next one. And um, and so that's kind of like how art should work and how it used to work. But the music industry kind of messed it up when they decided to wake up one day and determine the value of a song for us.
Yeah.
Like we're creating like a whole album, and you're gonna decide that like 99 cents is the value of a song.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? So yeah, that kind of like messed up the whole thing. And now for decades, we've been playing the game according to this weird valuation that was set by major labels. And so that, I mean, that being said, a lot of artists have still been able to make a significant, like copious amounts of money, but it also means that there's also tons of artists who should have and could have made times more money.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
we're limited to like 99 cents per song or 0.00004 cents per stream. So who made that up? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. So that's why, I think, so all these discoveries kind of like propelled me down the Web3 rabbit hole even faster. Like when we learn something that we feel could save the day, we're like, I'm telling everybody.
Yeah.
I'm telling everybody. And we're going up against the bad guys. We can do it. They're stronger than us, but if it's more of us, then we could still beat them,
So,
They have
so
all
have
the
you
money, but
told
we have all the people.
have you told like your music friends about all this?
Not this is all I do now. It's my obsession. This, and now everyone, all my music friends come to me, like everyone's coming to me like, you got to tell me about this. I see you, like you're so deep in it, and now you're like the queen of NFTs, and like and I see like your whole life is changing, and now you're like the CEO of a company, and you're like going all the way up. Like, how do I do this? What like teach me. And so yeah, I spend a lot of time when I'm not working, literally just like helping my friends or helping other artists, understand this whole thing and
Yeah.
trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about just like unknown artists, and I know we both know Sammy Ariaga, and it's dope to see what he's done.
Yeah.
Like I believe he quit his like 9 to 5 job now.
Yeah,
So that's
man.
like awesome to see like that's
Sammy
how far
is
it could
the
take you.
poster child. Like Sammy and Violetta and Loli. They're like for me like my top three. I mean, we have like guys like Blau like killed it as well.
Yeah.
But as far as like the singer songwriters, because
Mhm.
that's my my vibe. Yeah, they're the ones smashing it right now, and they are a testament to exactly what like if you put the work in, what this technology can do for you. Because you know I probably Jacob, maybe Loli, yeah, he's like the closest, maybe the closest to what I was like. He kind of like already had some success in Web 2, and he had a following. And so like just like I like both of us figured out, like how to like gradually float them over here,
Mhm.
but we also had to get really good at being the new kid on the block in Web3.
Mhm.
Because as you know, like in Web3, a lot there's a, it's a very different mentality, and people care less about numbers to an extent. They're like, so what, you have a blue check, what does that mean? you know okay, like you're famous, and what, you think you're gonna just come over here and get clout? Like that's not how we do it over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if you've had a lot of Web2 success, we see it all the time.
Mhm.
So many like huge artists like launch NFT projects and they're like stalled.
Yeah,
I hate to even call names, but like I like to give legit examples. So like if you look at Chris Brown's Breezy Voice project,
that's
they
interesting.
it's clear that he's not been able to make that connection with his current like Web2.
Yeah,
They're like, we don't get it. And I don't know if they're doing it this way intentionally, just letting it trickle in. There might be like a method to their madness, or they might just be like, yeah, we're just doing it organic, or
hmm
they're really just not making that effort to like get his current fan base to understand why it's important to
yeah,
support him in this way and how it can also benefit them,
yeah,
because you're never going to benefit from streaming my NFT like other than enjoying it. I mean, streaming my MP3,
yeah.
what is the benefit to you? But if you can own something really exclusive that's a part of me, that could potentially have a lot of value for you as well, in the future.
hmm
And so yeah, we see that it's like Web3 is like the upside down. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like blue check, we don't care.
yeah,
Numbers, boo. Really famous, womp. Who's this new kid? I never saw you before. Oh my God, you're really singing live. Dude, everyone get behind this kid. It's like the
yeah,
upside, yeah. And so, yeah, you can't just come in here thinking that, well, I'm the guy. Like even Snoop had to put, he put in a lot of work, man, like to prove
yeah,
like, dude, I'm one of you. I'm gonna create like Cosimo Medici, and I'm gonna like freaking also collect like crazy.
yeah,
I'm supporting I'm not just like begging you guys to give me stuff.
yeah.
Like I'm collecting as well, like I'm building in these different metaverses. I'm like really here,
Mhm.
so to me, people like Snoop figured out the right way uh to do this, for the most part.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's why it's just like I mean it's kind of confusing too when you think about it. Like obviously people had to put in even like I work with athletes, so like you got to put in the work to get there to a certain level, but you don't want to
Hmm.
put in this new work in the
Hmm.
Web3 space. So it's confusing to me. Like why wouldn't they want to do it?
Yeah, it's also like, less than 5% of people in the world are even know what crypto is or understand it or participate. So, and then it's an even smaller percentage of that 5% that's into like NFTs and digital collectibles. So the community is very small. It's like, it is that like everybody knows each other, you know what I mean? Like we all know each other for the most part, even if not personally. Like all the major players in the community, we all know, we know each other. We all know who this guy is, and even if you never met, you see them in the same spaces all the time. Like they're
Mhm.
always really active, and so we know who the active people in the community are.
Yeah,
And it's still so small that that's how it is right now. It's like you're not really gonna support the stranger dude.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like you want to rally behind your family, like this is our brother, this is our sister, this is our guy, like it's more that's kind of like where it's at now. But it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves when there is mass adoption, and we do have like more, like I call it like humans gonna human, and you kind of see a little bit of it leaking in already.
Mhm.
But as of right now, yeah, it's kind of still like a very small neighborhood, and people tend to support the guy that shows up a lot and that people like, and that they can have confidence that the guy's not a weirdo or she's not fickle or just using us or for clout, and we're just gonna mint and she's gonna dip. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
people really have to have confidence that they want to judge your character, and even if you're an anon and we don't know your face and we don't know who you actually are, it's your reputation, that's gonna really play a big role in how much people in the community want to support you. That's like on top of what you're actually offering,
yeah,
the value that you're actually offering.
yeah. No, definitely. So tell me a little bit about this Barbados NFT conference.
Yeah. So like I said, y'all, I'm all the way in. I'm deep. I'm deep. And so you asked me like, you know, if I've been like telling everybody, and So yeah, I'm telling everybody, and this is the biggest way that I can do it with a whole conference. So right now, like I was born and raised in Barbados, and Barbados is one of the, at least globally known as one of the more like pro crypto countries. Like our prime minister has refused to fall under the pressure of a lot of countries like banning it or making it illegal.
Hmm.
Um, so the only issues we have in Barbados right now is that we still suffer from a lot of financial discrimination from different institutions. So like we still have so many restrictions. Like we still can't just buy crypto with our credit cards or debit cards. We just can't like go to Binance and like buy crypto. Everything is OTC for us right now. Um, and so I recognize that what's going on is that it's almost like Barbados needs to be rebranded, because unfortunately a lot of the islands in the Caribbean are notorious, like the Caribbean is just known as this haven where like bad people hide bad money, and and we kind of like let them come, we're like, yeah, sure. Like the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, like all these,
Yeah.
Caribbean islands, like where people like do this stuff. Um so we've had a bad rap, which is honestly why a lot of the banks are like, if we operate in your company in your country, you're gonna have totally different restrictions than you know where our banks that operate in Canada or the US or whatever. And so I realize that it's kind of like the culture that needs to change, and I also don't want us to get left behind, because the Caribbean is a region that always gets left behind with technology. So I feel like for the first time in a long time, the playing field is kind of level, and no one really has any restrictions as far as like actually learning and understanding blockchain technology and participating.
Hmm.
So I'm just like, nah, Barbados, we can't get left behind again. Like we need to be like the blockchain hub of the Caribbean. And I'm looking at it like Miami's right here. Miami's the new Silicon Valley. That's where like all the blockchain action is happening in Florida. So I'm like, Florida is literally a stone throw away from Barbados, like literally a 3 hour flight.
Hmm.
So I'm just like, this makes sense. Let's keep it, like keep the action in this region. And I decided to sort of tackle it from an education perspective. I'm like, if we're not gonna get left behind, we got to get to the kids early, because they already understand digital economy. They're already playing Roblox and Fortnite. They're making money in games,
Hmm.
and they understand this a lot more than like say my mom
Yeah.
does. So I decided to host a conference, um, and start a program in Barbados, called Crypto for Kids. And so it's going to be like a bunch of workshops where the kids are going to get to do a lot of cool stuff. They're going to get in like an intro to coding. They're going to get, like, we literally have this kid called Maxim. He's amazing. He just turned 19. But he is like a genius. He knows how to build like mining rigs from scratch. He's gonna come in and like bring the parts and like build, like, hands on. Literally, these kids are gonna build mining rigs, build computers, and like we got guys coming in to teach them about VR and gaming and drones, and basically just like new tech. And so they're gonna learn all about blockchain, and they're gonna learn about NFTs. And it's pretty exciting, because I have some really cool people that decide to come on board. I got like the National Cultural Foundation of Barbados, the Ministry of Education,
That's
like
dope.
all that. Yeah, I was able to pull together a lot of support for this. So it's going to be the first blockchain conference, but it's with a specific focus on, like the youth and education, and how these new technologies can actually impact like underserved and underbanked communities, like like a country like Barbados, or other third world or developing nations around the world.
Hmm.
And it's pretty awesome, because I was able to draw this like cool juxtaposition between like Barbados and Iceland, because I'm like, we're right now we're looking at this conference and we're thinking like, oh yeah, this is going to impact the Caribbean and Latin America. And I'm just like, dude, global. If you're an island, you need to pay attention to this technology. This could be the thing that empowers. Islands are the most vulnerable, and I don't care like what size your island is. You could be England, like you got a big problem if there's like a major world catastrophe.
Hmm.
You're the first people cut off. You're isolated. Nothing's getting to you. You have no there's no mainland that you could like drive over to.
Yeah.
Like you're separated and cut off. And so we need to start thinking about ways that we could be more self-sufficient and use technology to like get closer to that, be more independent. And literally Barbados just broke away from the crown of like I mean we became independent in 66, but then we were still kind of like in the Commonwealth. So we still had to answer to the Queen. And so we just became a republic and completely broke away. So I'm like, okay, this means we really need to be like self sufficient now because we can't call Uncle Sam for help.
Right.
We can't call the Queen, the King, but she's dead now. Yeah, we can't call the King. We can't call nobody. So we better figure out how to stand on our own 2 feet. And then I said, well, and look at Iceland. They're the same. They're
Hmm.
literally, even though they're in a frozen tundra and we're in the tropics, they have around the same population. And Iceland is an island. So I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, you guys are gonna have the same issues too. So we reached out to Iceland and they're like, we're on board. Come do this over here too. So now we got like the Iceland government supporting the conference in Barbados. We got other Caribbean islands too, like the government of Bermuda come on board. So you can see that it's a movement, and all the islands are really excited and keen about this technology. And I just decided to kind of like lead the charge, like kick it off, like be
Hmm.
first in line, and hopefully start setting new trends. And we're hoping for it to like grow into a giant convention and then a summit maybe. Right now I'm already getting phone calls from Jamaica, Trinidad, like, dude, will you come do this conference here next? Like, our kids need to learn about this. So yeah, through the Crypto for Kids program, we're gonna teach the kids as much as we can about all this tech, and then train them to be ambassadors, and then they go on to train the next generation of kids and the next generation of kids. Because I also feel like education is looking real different right now, especially
Hmm.
after the pandemic. We really have to start embracing like alternative education for many, many reasons. Like, not only is financial education non existent in most schools, especially public schools,
Hmm.
but also, most kids don't learn the same. And
Yeah.
we're realizing this, and the pandemic really taught us this. There's like a bunch of kids that were failing before start were shining during the pandemic
Hmm.
because it's more comfortable for them to learn in the comfort of their home,
Hmm.
where their mom is home, and they don't feel like they're in a class, this sterile classroom environment, competing against all these other kids. It's just like me and my teacher or whatever. Like, so people are now embracing like distance education, remote learning, virtual learning, and like gamified learning.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we're also trying to introduce to Barbados and the region so that we can like move the kids forward faster so that they become the next generation of builders and creators. Because as it stands right now, places like Barbados, we outsource a lot.
Yeah.
We import so much. We import everything, and then on top of importing everything, then even some of our political problems, like any issues that we have, like we're outsourcing those solutions from other countries and or corporations. And I'm just like, now we need to like focus on tech in Barbados because we don't need to be outsourcing solutions. No one's going to solve our problems better than us. You can't, like, the probability is really high that the solution will fail if it comes from an external source, because you might be trying to use this model that worked over there, but over there is not over here. The culture is totally different. It might not have the same impact. It might not work. So I'm really trying to impact my culture where I was raised, and get the government and the people to realize like embracing technology is something that could be really liberating. So that's what this conference is all about, and it kicks off October 7th. It runs from the 7th to the 9th, in Barbados. It's called Blockchain on the Beach. So if you want to just come to Barbados for like a kind of vacation, but also, yeah, network and learn all about blockchain and Web3, this is perfect for you. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe I'll come if you give me a tour.
Hell yeah, I got you. From the 7th to the 9th, we're doing catamaran cruises, island tours. Like we're gonna mix it up, you know. So you're
Hmm.
gonna get to experience a beautiful tropical island, but you're also gonna get the chance to network with some pretty big players in Web3 um, and blockchain, and you're gonna also get to learn a lot, you know, especially the kids.
Hmm.
I'm like, really excited about that. I'm like also doing an NFT project with a bunch of kids who are like from different choirs here,
Hmm.
um, just as a practical exercise to show them like how you take art and put it on chain and then make money from it. So we're all gonna like do a song together, gonna record it with them, and then create an NFT, and then literally during the conference create the NFT like live, like minted live,
Hmm.
and set it for auction. And then I want to give like 100% of the proceeds from the auction to, I haven't decided yet, but a children's charity. Um, and I'll probably leave it up to the winning bidder to decide. Like I'll just put that in the smart contract. Like you have to,
Yeah.
when you buy it, you have to also tell me who to give this money to.
Yeah.
you know,
I would
like
I would say even
a
like
charity.
try to like do it yourself.
Yeah,
Not like cuz I've done stuff like that in the past and then like donated to like big foundations and I'm like, well, what's the point of this? Like what did that actually do? And then like I found like smaller ones that are like local and
yeah, exactly.
like you know what they're actually going to do with it.
Yeah, I want to give it to like a smaller,
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. They really need the help.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sick of big stuff, big companies.
yeah, I feel you.
Going back to music, like what who are some of your like inspirations and like role models growing up?
When I was growing up, I was like influenced by a lot of different music because my parents listened to a lot of Motown stuff. So obviously I love like Stevie Wonder and artists like that. But they also listened to a lot of Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, and I really loved Bob Marley. But then as I got older, I started to idolize like Aaliyah, and I really loved Missy Elliott. And then later on, yeah, came Destiny's Child and Beyonce. I was totally obsessed by them. Um, and I would say probably my biggest influence for the longest time is probably Alicia Keys. I just like her whole vibe. I like that she makes wholesome music, but she's also like actually writing and creating. But then she's also beautiful and she's also like really inspiring and gives back. And so she just represents a lot of what I I feel I would want to be as a person, but also a creative.
Yeah, for sure. What about who is like top three uh artists that you want to do a song with?
I literally, well, I got to knock one off of my list because I like always wanted to work with Snoop, and I just recently got to do a song with him, so that was cool, and hopefully it'll come out soon. Um,
Oh, is that exclusive right there?
yes, actually, I don't think I told anyone this before. Um, but yeah, man, there's so many. Well, I haven't gotten to work with Alicia. I really like loved Lauren Hill too. I wanted to work with her for a long time. But and I already got to work with Bruno Mars. He was like high on my list. Oh man, there's so many artists, dude. Like
So when you say work with them,
where to
would you like
start? Like I think everyone wants to work with Drake at some point. I think
yeah.
that would be dope. Um, but yeah, I would love to work with or even artists like Adele, like Ed Sheeran, um, because I really love the singer songwriters, man.
Yeah.
Like that's my vibe. Yeah. Um, but a lot of artists that are really popular, like good friends of mine, like Joyner Lucas and Saint John and all these guys. And so I actually grew up in the game working with them like all along the way. So to be honest, I've been able to check a lot of people on my list. I would say the one that's crucial, like I really want to work with Stevie Wonder, And
Okay.
all the other people that I really wanted to work with at some point or meet, they passed, man. Like freaking Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney. So I'm just like begging you, Stevie, just like hang in there for me, bro. Like please, because like I'm losing all my faith. I can't take it. So I need you to hang in there for me.
All right.
Like
So we're
I
so
would I would work with probably like most of the artists that are out there. Like like I love Lil Baby and I love Kodak Black. Like there's so many like artists that I freaking love. You know, that I love hip hop. I love freaking all the music. I freaking want to work with like I don't know like yeah even Kings of Leon and like
Mhm.
my favorite band is like System of a Down. Like could you imagine like getting to work with System? That would be sick.
All right. So
Foo
top three. It's
Fighters.
so top three is Snoop Dogg, Stevie Wonder, and who's three?
Hell yeah. It's so hard to. You can't ask a singer songwriter for like a top three artist, man. That's tough. That's real tough.
I'll just say it's tied by everybody.
Yeah, everyone's a tie.
See, I think it's always
It'd
yeah. I
be
think it's.
dope to work with T Pain too. That would be fun. I just know that would be so
I
much fun.
love T Pain.
Yeah.
All right. So that's your third.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I always like when like a rapper and like a singer come together, especially when it's a guy and a girl. Like I think it's really dope.
Yeah.
Like you know who Russ is?
Yeah, I love Russ.
Like
I
he
love.
like
He's the
he
king of indie, man.
yeah, like he put on basically like two girls in the past year, like and blew them up, like just off
Yeah.
of like one song. So I think it's like really dope what he's doing.
Yeah. I love Russ.
Um, are
He's
you
one.
ready for some fun questions?
Yeah. Let's get
All
it.
right, what's your favorite food?
Oh man, that's another hard one. I'm a foodie, but growing up in Barbados, I probably would say like my go-to favorite food is maybe like grilled fish. Like I love grilled marlin or like grilled swordfish with like grilled potatoes and a nice coleslaw or salad or something.
What about in America?
In America, pizza, man. You find the right pizza spot, you're
Uh,
golden. I lived in New York for a long time, so I'm like
nah.
really, pizza petty, man.
Well, I live in
Gotta be
Connecticut, and
thin crust.
yeah, we
Yeah,
Connecticut and New York we have a rivalry, but Connecticut's number one pizza.
yeah, dude, pizza is probably like my favorite. What? And it sucks. Like the Italians are probably so pissed at me. Like, did you just say pizza was American?
It is.
Come on. Yeah,
Well, ca- technically I'd say yeah,
yeah, yeah.
because the pizza in Italy is not the same.
It's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What is something people don't know about you?
Ooh, there's a lot. It's a matter of what I want to share.
You got a secret. You got an alternate life.
I got secrets. Everybody got secrets. Uh, there's probably a few people that know this, and I don't really like to talk about it because I'm big on like gun law reform and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm really good with guns because I like have a military background, and so I'm actually like a sharpshooter, and I'm actually like cross arms qualified. So if I have to shoot you, I'm not gonna miss. I can shoot like quarter-inch groupings. I can like strip a weapon and like put it back together in seconds. Like I'm pretty yeah, it's I know my way around some like rifles and handguns and stuff. Mind you, I don't own any, and I used to be on the range a lot, but yeah, guns is a kind of like iffy topic for me.
Yeah. No, I
Um,
feel you.
but if I have a gun in my hand and you're my enemy, it's probably gonna be a problem for you.
I'm scared of you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good one. That might
Yeah.
have been the best one I ever got, to be honest. Like I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah. Or like if you point your gun at me, be sure you know what you're doing because if I get it from you, and I probably will, you're gonna have a lot of problems.
And you said,
Doesn't mean that you should try to walk up to me and test me now.
oh yeah, no, no,
Don't do that.
no, no, no. Wait, did you say it was because your parents are military background? Is that
No,
what you said?
yeah, I literally, yeah. So There's a program in Barbados called the Cadets, and they probably have a lot of similar programs everywhere. It's not like ROTC where it's like you get in trouble and now it's like mandatory. You have
Hmm.
to do this thing.
Yeah.
Um, but it's basically like a sub-military organization that runs through the schools.
Hmm.
And so for when I was in secondary school, like my entire time I was at school, I in like high school, I guess you guys would call it. I was in the
I was
cadets,
about to ask you to
yeah, high
clarify.
school, and so yeah, so I went through that program, went all the way, through the ranks of like corporal, sergeant, and then I went to the rank of officer. And usually the students who perform really good in this program, we get offered to basically go into the military like right out of school,
Hmm.
and they give you these really attractive packages, especially if you're going to be an officer. So yeah, I literally like left school, and my first year after school I went and I did like the officer training, became an officer in the military for like half a year. And then I was just like, yeah guys, I'm out because I'm gonna go do this music thing, sorry. But yeah, so that's where all that training came from. Like I literally, for like a hot second, was an officer in the army here in Barbados. Like literally, the Barbados Defense Force.
That's crazy. And now
Yeah.
I'm scared. And now I'm scared of you.
Yeah. And so yeah, I don't tell the story a lot, but yeah,
And
true story.
last question. I know you came out with an album in 2022,
Mhm.
Boomerang. So one, like, how is it to feel? I know you haven't released an album, so what does that feel like to release one? And then two, is that one also like an NFT?
Yeah. So Boomerang. First of all, it felt so great to be able to get that out because I actually recorded the majority of that album in Norway.
Okay.
Um, and that was probably that it was definitely over a year ago that I started working on it. And again, a lot of artists didn't know what to do because of the pandemic. Like we weren't sure if it even made sense to really keep releasing music because we are like, we're not gonna be able to tour or anything behind it. So but then I just said screw it, like I'm just gonna put it out. And the reception's been really great. And this is the first, well, album, EP. It's technically an EP, but yeah, the first body of work that I released independently since I left
Mhm.
Universal. So yeah, that came with its challenges, but it also just felt really good to know like I'm releasing something that whatever happens with it, I'm gonna be owning the
Yeah.
majority, like for the first time. And
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been awesome to be able to put new stuff out. And yeah, I'm just gonna keep dropping new music. But I wasn't gonna say anything, but yeah, I am currently working on a new NFT project, and this time it is gonna be a generative project. um the utility is actually pretty sick, because I'm also really big into conservationalism. um, Again, because I was born and raised on an island, and yeah, the world's trash really like screws us in the islands like big time. It floats out here, it like messes up our coral, and it like kills all our fish, and that's kind of like our life as island people. We thrive a lot on like seafood and basically like yeah, the health of our oceans and stuff like that. um, so yeah, this project's gonna have some really cool utility where you're gonna be able to earn, but at the same time, you're going to be contributing to essentially like, I don't want to say zero carbon, but it's going to be a chance for you to sort of like help erase a little bit of your own personal carbon footprint. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but you're going to be able to help offset carbon emissions by like literally being a part of this project.
Hmm.
And it's interesting for me because I've spent a lot of my time in the Ethereum community and Solana. um, but yeah, I've been recently exploring uh, you know like my crow fam, and
Hmm.
so I'm actually going to be doing this project on Chronos. Um, and yeah, it's interesting because I really feel like a lot of us are not exploring some the other chains enough. And there's a lot of other cool chains too, like Cardano's starting to really like NFT marketplace. I'm pretty sure there's been over like 1 million collections dropped on that marketplace, and it's like no one's talking about it, but it's like really starting to do its thing. There's also like Hedera,
Mhm.
Algorand. There's like a bunch of other chains that are starting to really do awesome stuff, and so I decided, you know what, like let me see what's going on. I have like a bunch of friends over at crypto.com, and I just say, you know what, like let's see what's going on some of these other chains. And you just because of the way this chain works, it's gonna allow me to do all these cool things and add this extra utility. And I will start doing, as we call it, like some more like drip marketing about it. I'll release more information bit by bit, but just yeah, look out. Um, you'll see me a lot in spaces on Sundays with the Crow fam. So if you want to learn more about Chronos Chain, yeah, definitely start. Join us on Sundays. And get into that community because it's really on fire. So yeah, you're gonna see a new project from me soon. It's gonna be my first generative project, and it does music is tied into it as well. So you'll be able to enjoy it on multiple fronts.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and could you let the listeners know where to follow you at?
Thank you. You guys want to stay in touch with me, follow me on Twitter, of course, for definitely Web3 fam. Twitter, it's easy. It's Shontelle underscore Lane. If you want to find me on Instagram, that's at Shawnee246, SHONNY 246. And then on Facebook, Shontelle Music. I'm on I'm on all the things. I'm on the TikToks as Shontelle underscore Lane as well. And I think I'm on Snapchat and I'm even on Clubhouse. But yeah, you just search for Shontelle. I'll pop up somewhere on like all the different apps. But I'm definitely much more active on Instagram and Twitter.